Greetings, beloved light warriors. It's Saratoga, and this is your weekly focus card reading for the week beginning April 26th through May the 2nd, 2021. And if you're new to my channel, I do this every Sunday so we can reset our focus and our energy for the coming week ahead. And then on Tuesdays and Fridays, I do my regular on-camera videos. Okay, let's get into this very interesting week that we have coming up. Firstly, I want to mention that on Monday, April 26th, we have a super full moon in Scorpio. It might be the 27th, depending on where you are in the world, but pretty much it's Monday the 26th. I just want to mention that because I think that ties into this reading. So this card says, Solitude, in silence, peace prevails. So when I looked at the word solitude, when I was first just being with this card, I immediately have the sense that solitude refers to oneness and wholeness, because it doesn't necessarily refer to, in the sense of this reading, it doesn't necessarily refer to just being alone, because you can be alone and you're not feeling very peaceful at all, or you might not even be feeling any silence because you got all these voices in your head talking to you, right? So in this sense, I think the message from the word solitude has to do with feeling whole, meaning not having a whole bunch of conflicting voices and conflicting thoughts trying to get your attention and trying to get you going in all these different directions, because that's not a sense of feeling whole. That's a sense of feeling fragmented and divided within yourself. So how do we come into a true sense of real solitude where there is silence? Because silence in this sense refers to an inner experience of silence, an inner experience, because honestly, you guys probably know this. If you have silence within, you are immediately going to feel peace, right? Let's take a look for a moment now at the image on the card. This woman is clearly in peace. My feeling is that this represents our higher self or our true self. And I say that partly because if you look at what she's wearing, she has a crown, she has what looks like something of royal garb that she's wearing, which indicates to me something higher, a higher positioning of sorts. So it's really just symbolic, but I think that, to me, that is for this reading the meaning of what she is actually wearing. And you'll notice that on her shoulder is a little owl, and that little owl looks so sweet, so peaceful, almost like it's snuggling up to her. The owl represents her true inner wisdom. It's like she and that owl are so close. There's such a bond between them. Meaning she is really allied with her own inner wisdom. That is the primary thing in her life. It's such a beautiful image, really, when you look at this. I'm not quite sure if there's a real strong meaning to her. It looks like she's looking into some sort of a large bowl or a container that has perhaps water in it. And because she's looking down into it, we could say perhaps she's looking at, she's seeing a reflection of her higher self. Now, where is that reflection? That reflection could be the physical world on this planet. So if you put all of that together, it's kind of like what we're really trying to achieve is an experience where in our physical experience, in our physical world, our physical life, we want to start to see a reflection in the manifestation of our lives of who we really are. We want to start to see a reflection that we are finally able to experience the peace of oneness within ourselves. See, we talk so much about oneness externally, like, we're all one and, the universe is all one, and that's all true. But we almost never consider the experience of oneness within ourselves. We almost never really think about the experience of wholeness within ourselves, because this is what we're actually trying to achieve in our larger evolutionary process. We're trying to get back to that feeling of being whole again, where we're not divided in a million little pieces, where we're not holding on to all these different experiences that we're trying to navigate through. And guys, we're not supposed to be accumulating all these experiences. That's another story. I'll get into that in one of my regular videos. But in our natural state, we are in a state of release. And we are in a state of always being clear, and that radiating light of our true presence, that's where the peace is. The peace is in the silence where you no longer have the competing voices in your head. That's the kind of solitude that we're talking about in this reading. So this is really interesting. I think it's a message to go within and seek out the truth of who you really are. It's not so much a matter of saying, oh, my higher self, I have to tune into my higher self out there somewhere. The thing is, your higher self is not out there somewhere. Your higher self is within you. It is you. It is the true you. It is who you really are. So it's really a matter of almost like a consciousness shift from being so externally oriented. And I will add that being externally oriented is what causes us to get so confused, right? Because there's so many different components and elements and things that we have to process through, and previous experiences of stuff we've been through from an external perspective. And as long as our primary orientation is external, and we're always reacting to the external world, we're in a constant state of reaction and trying to process what that does to us inside of ourselves, we don't have the silence and we don't have the peace. But it's really a matter of orientation. It's not so much a matter of getting rid of everything. It's more a matter, if you want to be a little faster, it's a matter of how are you oriented inside of yourself. So you can shift. It's almost like a powerful, it's more than a paradigm shift, but let's just say it's a paradigm shift for sake of descriptiveness here. But it's a shift in orientation. So instead of your primary orientation, or is that the right way to say it? Yeah, your primary orientation being external and also all of those voices inside, because the voices in your head are external to who you really are as well. They might be in your head, but they're still external to who you really are, okay? Shifting that orientation to your true center, your true heart, your light, your power, and your presence, which is a manifestation of omnipresent oneness and love, which is a full manifestation of the source of all that is. And that source is only love, period. It's not dark and light. It's not, good and bad. It is only love. Okay? So that is, if you think about that, if you go into a place of physical solitude, take time every morning for meditation, for example, and you understand that what you're trying to do is shift your orientation to that true self. So that is this is so simple, you guys. This is amazing if you think about it. It's so simple. It doesn't even require you to process a bunch of stuff. It's just shift your orientation so you're oriented with that true self. Because that's wisdom. That's wisdom, and that means that you're that little image of that beautiful, sweet little owl that she's so close to. They're almost like cuddling, There's so much wisdom in that, because you know what? When you do that, you're going to look at all the other stuff that you've been stressing about, that you've been confused about, that you've been just overwhelmed with, not knowing how to make everything fit, not knowing how to process it all. And it could be your own life, but it could also be all the stuff in the whole world. You're going to look at all of that, and you're not going to feel like you're identified with it. You're going to have a clarity that you never imagined possible, because you're seeing it from a clear place. You're not seeing it from being immersed in all the junk. Okay? Now, I want to add too about this super full moon on Monday. It's a super full moon means the moon is closer to the earth. It has a more powerful influence on us. Full moons are always wonderful for clearing energy for cleansing, clearing, letting go, all of that. This one in particular has a very strong clearing energy. And I felt very inspired to put this citrine quartz here. This is natural citrine, as opposed to, I think it's heat treated citrine, which looks very different. Natural citrine also has very powerful purifying properties. And that's because it actually has some natural smoky quartz energy in it. It's really great for clearing blockages. So let's put all of this together. So if we just look at the, okay, citrine quartz, full moon, clearing, that, let me just go back. Let me backtrack for a moment. Let's go back to the shift in your orientation. So you're primarily oriented in that true self. We call it the higher self because it's the highest possible expression of you. It's the most authentic expression of you. Higher self does not mean it's out in space somewhere, okay? It's in you. So when you are oriented there as your primary orientation, then the other stuff actually can be cleared more easily. Do you want to know why? Because you're not thinking you have to deal with it all. And there's one other reason, and that has to do with the ego. Because it's the ego that wants all this stuff to match up and make sense and be explained and, you know, all the information and everything else, because that's where we lose that wholeness. That's where we feel divided and split, because we have that true self, and then we have the ego, which is completely enamored with all the junk. And the ego, hey guys, the ego has no interest in who you really are. It has zero interest in your true self. And that's how we can get so confused and so overwhelmed, because we're like, well, what's true? What's not? What's real? What's not? Who am I? And what's me? And we start, let me tell you this, you guys, if you start thinking your ego is who you are, or it's a part of who you are, you're going to have a lot of problems, because there's no way to reconcile that. You cannot reconcile the ego with your true self. They don't reconcile. They just don't. Let the ego do its simple job, which is to help you navigate in this physical finite reality, like know how to get in a car, drive to work, go to the grocery store, assess things. The ego's good at absorbing information that you might need to use as a reference. So the ego has a job, but it's not its job to run your life. It's not the ego's job to tell you what everything means, okay? So you gotta make sure that you put the ego in its proper perspective and realize that it's not you. It's not who you are. It's just something that exists in your consciousness out of necessity, unfortunately, because of the nature of this reality. So make sure that you don't, how do I want to say this? You don't lose your authority to the ego. You don't want to subjugate yourself, your true self, to the ego. Because the ego is going to try to get you to do that. It's going to try to get you to subjugate yourself, to kneel before it and make it the final authority in your life. And it's not. You are the final authority in your life. Okay? So when you understand that, that's another piece that's important to understand, so that you can get to that place of true solitude, true wholeness, true oneness within yourself. Because think about this. What is it you're trying to become one with? Source. The creator of all that is love. That's all it is love. That's who you are. You are an extension of that power. You are an expression of that power. Okay? So that's when you are whole within yourself. That's when you experience the silence, because you don't have the competing voices anymore, because you have decided that you are the one in charge of your experience. You and only you, meaning the you that is the real you, the true you, the highest, I wouldn't even call it a version of you, because that sounds too divided. Let's just say the highest expression of you. That is an expression of the ultimate creative source of all it is. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. That's really where you find true peace. Because when you're oriented there, you feel that peace of that wholeness. You feel the peace of that clarity. You feel the quiet. You feel the silence. And then you are so connected to your inner wisdom, like that little owl. You're so connected. And you're not fighting anything anymore because you have it all in its proper perspective. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. I think really what you want to think about for this weekend, always, as I say, take these readings beyond this week. It doesn't have to be limited to 1 week. In fact, you can go back and look at any of these readings and they'll probably have meaning to you anytime you might choose to revisit one of them. But for now, you could just say, you know, okay, this might be a good week to get oriented in who I really am, my real center, my light, my presence, my pure, incredible wisdom that comes from that place, which is going to make it a whole lot easier for the junk that you need to clear, because you're not going to be investing your energy in holding on to it because, you know, holding on for dear life because you think it has something to do with who you really are. Okay, so I hope you can see how all of that comes together in the most beautiful way. It's really, I think if I were to encapsulate this whole message in terms of its purpose, it's really an accelerator. This is about how to accelerate your evolution, how to accelerate your empowerment, your ability to clear, your ability to just move forward at a much, much faster rate. Okay, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this reading. And I hope you have a wonderful week in front of you, a very interesting and inspiring week, because I also want to tell you that your true self is the embodiment of inspiration. Okay, you in your purest form are the literal embodiment of inspiration. So when you get in touch with that, you're going to have a very inspiring day and a very inspiring week and a very inspiring life. All right, so take good care of yourselves, and I so look forward to seeing you in the next video. I'm sending you so much love. Namaste.